What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for January 20th, 2020. And this was a pretty jam-packed week. We had a number of patches, a roadmap update, a monthly report, and a very kind of filled Star Citizen Live, as well as a little update on some other things, like a new ship and the Crytek lawsuit. So we have a lot of things to talk about this week, starting out with the patch notes. 3.8.1 is now on the PTU. And its initial release was rough. It crashed about every 10 to 15 minutes, and they took it down to stabilize it for later in the week, which is when they released 3.8.1b. The known issues list was never-ending, and they did add a few features, though, as well. They added medical gameplay, and this is, I think calling it medical gameplay is a little bit of a stretch. I think it being a mobile spawn point is probably more interesting than the actual medical gameplay, but it's nice to have a different way to heal other than just having a med pen. Now, you don't necessarily need one. You need a $900 $890 jump. Also, no more drop boxes when entering ships with ladders, so you can walk into your Aurora again and do delivery missions. Security also gives you more time before they give you a fine to slow down if you are stopped and interdicted by them entering or leaving a system. 3.8.1c was also released, and the known issues list was still a novel, but they also added the Drake Cutlass Red, which adds more to that medical gameplay that we discussed earlier. And it was pretty interesting, I think. It's a nice-looking ship. It's slightly different than the Cutlass. It doesn't have a turret at the top. It has these docking collars on the side. I find it really, really kind of interesting and exciting. 2 medical beds, and apparently this week we're going to hear a little bit more about what the ship can do. So hopefully I'll have some time to do an update on that ship sale for later in the week in a later video, so keep an eye out for that. Then we had a roadmap update, and I think it's a stretch calling it a roadmap update, but basically the only thing that was moved on the roadmap was rest stop unoccupied. So unoccupied rest stops were removed, and it's because the team is focused on more in-atmos things, most likely the Microtech landing zone. Then moving on, the monthly report was somewhat disappointing, I would say, but not really. I mean, I think it's a typical January type of community content where not much is going on, so they kind of go backwards a little bit and tell us what they did more than what they're going to do. So I'm looking forward to the February monthly report, but in this one we're going to discuss 2 specific things. The first one was AI ships, and specifically the way they are going to fly in atmosphere. They're trying to get it a little bit more realistic looking and feeling, and they're also going to kind of prioritize flying in like caverns and valleys and things like that. So that should be pretty cool, coming across an AI ship just kind of flying around one day. They also talked a little bit about the quantum integration and how that's going, and it seems to be going relatively well. So looking forward to whatever that means for 3.9 and the dynamic mission system. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that in the future and reporting on that more in the near future, as that is hopefully going to make it into the 3.9 release. But as we know, things are going to be very volatile. We're waiting for that roadmap update to really come in and clean everything out. It hasn't happened quite yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what clears out and what comes in. Moving on to video updates. Again, no Inside Star Citizen this week, as the team is still on their hiatus, and I think we know how I feel about that. Star Citizen Live, though, was relatively good and interesting. And the first thing that came out of it was a little bit of housekeeping, and it was explaining kind of just what a vehicle experience team is, because that was the general subject of the show this week.
The newest edition, we've had content teams, we've had feature teams. Now we have an experience team.
Yeah.
So what's the goal of the experience team?
So it's called vehicle experience because it sort of covers everything about the vehicle experience. It's not just limited to combat of how vehicles fight. It's the whole living, breathing aspect of experiencing, sounds cliche, but experiencing your ship. Because combat's like a byproduct of a bunch of other features. it's a byproduct of flying. So if flying your ship doesn't feel good, fighting in your ship doesn't feel good. If interacting with things in your ship isn't good, then flying your ship is going to be bad, and then combat's going to be bad. So it's sort of a holistic look at all these features that tie together the vehicle experience and working on them.
A lot of vehicle experience teams is about supporting feature teams as well. So when feature teams are working on a feature, vehicle experience team can provide guidance on how that feature might interact with other systems so that the whole experience stays consistent and along the lines that we want it to.
Now, I like this direction. I think that ships are paramount for Star Citizen, and making sure that our experiences and that we're enjoying those experiences are really important. So having somebody always paying attention to that is very, very useful, and I like that this is what's going on and the direction that they're going in. Now, I think the reasons that they said that ship combat isn't so good, that if the flight's not good, then you don't enjoy combat, but if you don't enjoy the way you interact with the ship, then flight's not good. That was a little bit of a cop-out for me, and I think they've been copping out on why space combat isn't enjoyable for far too long at this point, and I think we just need a really good sit-down of what the direction is, where they're going, what they're planning on doing, and I thought that that's what this show would have been, but spoiler alert, it wasn't. We're going to discuss it a little bit more in detail when they asked the question about ship combat, but just quite disappointed. Like, I'm already getting disappointed in preparation for this part of the video. But they do start out with the top question, and I think we're all interested in hearing about this.
What is the situation on landing aids, such as radar and lighting?
So the main thing that we want with landing aids is the old radar view of the landing pad that we had in 2.5. I can't remember.
2.5 is the one where you had the outline and
the problem with that is that it's a really complicated piece of 3D UI, and if you remember from the CitizenCon UI talk, a lot of the UI tech is being revamped at the moment, and one of the current focuses right now in January is 3D. And so we're kind of working with them at the moment to add a lot more 3D elements to all of the UI, HUDs, MFDs, etc. And obviously one of those things is the landing UI. So once that 3D UI tech is developed a bit more, we're going to come back and rebuild that landing aid. And then that in combination with lights facing down or cameras that face down will help that whole experience.
Landing aids, they're important in every space game, and I think that the fact that they're working on the initial steps to try to get this in is quite exciting. So a positive to take out of this video for sure. Another one of the top voted questions was asked about armor. And I think that this is definitely going into why ship combat isn't that interesting or good or exciting or fun yet. Armor's a big part of that. And a lot of us know how much this will help improve ship-to-ship combat. So, getting good progress on that is exciting.
So that is in production at the moment. It's something that Chris is actually helping out on. So at the moment we define mass by a value in the XML. But how it's going to be is going to be defined off the actual vehicle's model and materials. So if we make a ship out of plastic material, it will work out the volume and the mass of it from that based on the materials that are applied. So it will behave like a plastic ship versus someone like me putting 10 million tons in the XML. So that's the groundwork for it. So the ships will be physically weighted is the wrong term, but they will be appropriately massed, appropriately sort of designed and set up with all the materials. So if it looks like metal, it's going to weigh like that. If it looks like carbon fiber, it will be lighter. Right. The start of the system is we need to work out what the ship is programmatically, because marking it all up is how we do it now, and that's not sustainable or using sort of the desired end system. Yeah. At the moment we go, left wing has 500 hit points, right wing has 500 hit points, left end wing has 100 hit points. We're going to move to, it's the left wing, it's made of this material, work out what it should be.
What it is. All right, cool.
The steps were nicely laid out in this answer. It's obviously going to take time to implement these steps and these features, but it's the the fact that it's in some form of development is very similar to how I feel about the landing aids. It's nice that they're doing something with it instead of just talking about it. And the next question was what I was waiting to hear some time on. What's going on with the flight model? Do you like it? What are you going to change about it?
Are you happy with the current flight model?
We're a lot happier than we were a year ago, that's for sure.
Bits and pieces. Getting to where we want it to be, but there's other areas that are definitely not.
So one of the things that's obviously a well-known upcoming feature this year is the thruster efficiency curves. And that's,
that's all I can talk about is the thruster efficiency
That's
curves.
probably like the most explored feature that we're working on at the moment. And part of that necessitates an aerodynamic rebalance of the ships.
This is just getting unacceptable for me. You ask a question about, do you like the flight model? And the problem with it is the way the question was asked, probably, but the immediate switch to atmospheric flight is ridiculous. They must know that it's ship-to-ship combat in space and in atmosphere that we care about. And there is always no discussion about what it's going to be like in space. Why we don't like it, why you don't like it, there's no discussion on it ever. It needs to happen. I'm end of story. It's getting out of control at this point. So on a much sweeter note, we asked a question about multi-crew and when we can expect that to start improving, because honestly, the Argo Mole is the only true multi-crew ship, in my opinion. Obviously, there's ships with turrets, and that's really easy to do, but there's a lot more to multi-crew that's expected for Star Citizen, and we don't have any of it.
What thought is being put towards the multi-crew experience in terms of vehicle designs to encourage multi-crew play beyond just being glorified murder buses?
There's a few parts to this, and one of them that we're kind of focusing on more at the moment is the MFD screens, because the MFD screens are obviously a big part of how you interact with ships, and so we're working on an MFD rework that will come in the future, and part of that discussion is obviously how are MFDs going to work with multi-crew, and what is that system for doing it. So we're still kind of working through this. But obviously we are exploring the options of having unique MFDs for certain stations and ships, or having maybe some kind of permission system where you can allow certain players in certain seats to control certain things about the ship.
So outside of the UI, it's making sure the ships have sort of reasons to work together. A big thing we're missing is having the items inside the ships and having them be damageable and repairable, because as soon as you have that in, there's your engineer role out the box. So that gives someone something to do. The UI side helps pilots and co-pilots work together, helps a captain control his crew, hopefully. Navigators setting stuff, all requires the UI to work.
Now, it seems like a lot of this stuff is on the very near horizon rather than way down the line now, which is nice. So it goes along the lines of, the flight model stuff that, I would have thought a lot of this stuff would have been done before we even hit 3.0, let alone 4.0. And, but that's Star Citizen, and that's kind of the way things have gone, and it's just something we have to accept at this point, unfortunately. But, hey, we also know that the UI was a huge bottleneck, and they stopped development on everything, focused on this building blocks tool, and that tool is starting to come online now and enabling all of those things that we hoped would have been done a long time ago now. And this is one of those things, making interactions within the ship and the ship systems more interesting, more fun, more multi-crew. So I'm very excited about this answer, very excited about the future of a lot of Star Citizen ships, not just the Argo Mole anymore. I'm really kind of excited about that. And this next clip, I did a little bit of a double take on.
Do you plan to add aim assistance to turrets? Aim assist.
They do actually have a small amount of aim assist at the moment, but it's not enough or sort of appropriate for what we're doing. So we want to add gimbal assist to turrets?
At first, I was like, these guys can't be serious. And then I start to realize the only types of guns that probably should have an assist like this is turrets, because there's so many issues with the ship moving and moving your pip around and making it really difficult to aim that, sure, turrets probably should have a little bit of a gimbal assist and aim assist like this. I'm not so sure on our actual combat ships and piloted ships. Again, in my opinion, I feel like gimbal assist should only be on maybe size 2 weapons and below to help new players get involved in Star Citizen and enjoy it, and then have to get better at aiming with as you build up your skills and move through more interesting and exciting and better dogfighting ships and combat ships in general. But I think we've kind of beat down that quite a bit now at this point, and not much of a point in discussing it anymore. They seem to be pretty hell-bent on making the game more casual, so we'll have to see how things progress over the long term, but in the short term, okay, we'll see. Miscellaneous updates. So we had a subscriber update this week, and there are 2 new knife flares. I saw a lot of people complain that these aren't that interesting or whatever. It does feed the collector in me, so I definitely enjoy them. But obviously knives don't have like a fantastically great use right now. I don't think the AI are too great where we can hide behind them and knife them very easily or anything like that. But I definitely think that knives are going to have a place in Star Citizen at some point. That point just may not be today, right? But having a good group of them and different ones and exciting ones and cool looking stuff is always good for MMOs. Now the Cutlass Red, they started influencer marketing with it, so they were showing it off on streams, and then it was dropped to Evo Kadi members, and then it went to Wave 1, and so far I like it. I think it seems pretty cool. We discussed it in some length earlier, and yeah, we'll have to see again what happens this week with it. And then finally, the Crytek lawsuit. Now, I will not discuss any Crytek lawsuit stuff on my channel. I just don't know enough about it, so it does seem like Crytek is a bit in hot water, or like not doing so well as far as the lawsuit goes, but I will always kind of push you towards either Board Gamers videos or Leonard French videos. More likely Leonard French videos than Board Gamers videos, as Leonard French is actually an attorney, so I think he has a really good kind of sense of what's going on here and explains it really well. So I'll have both those links in the description, and regardless, it's a lot of time and money wasted, and that's just generally disappointing. So that will do it for this week's Week in Review, and I think it was a cool one. You know, we had a lot of cool things. Medical gameplay, it's nice. There is a nice little groundwork there for medical gameplay, and we'll have to see where it goes in the future. But that'll do it, guys. So leave a like on this video if you made it this far and liked it. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about any of the things that we discussed here, and hit subscribe for more Weeks in Review, and I'll see you guys next week.